So, welcome to the next edition of the Rare Business Podcast. With me today, I have Kerem Akinol, who is Senior Vice President of Products at Pega. I was lucky enough to meet up with Kerem to have a chat with him at Pega's recent customer event, Pega World 16 in Las Vegas, and must say thanks go out to Pega for inviting me along to find out a bit more about what they're up to. So, first of all, I'll hand over to Kerem, who will introduce you and tell you a little bit about himself.
My name is Kerem. I've been at Pega for 24 years, going on 25. And my job is the product. So I'm responsible for the product of the company.
Okay. So, first of all, I'm going to start thanking people for inviting me to Pega World because it's my first big event like this, and it's a bit like, wow. And I'm like, wow, crumbs, trying to figure out what's going to go on. But there's a lot of, it seems to me that the CRM market goes up and down in terms of its popularity and success, and CRM has been around for, I don't know.
Of course.
Yes, a number of years.
As long as they've been customers.
Well, exactly. But then there's technology platforms that are trying to help with that. But can you tell me, from your perspective, why? Because Pega started as more of a case management, BPM sort of player, and has now moved into CRM or evolved into CRM.
Yep.
And from your view, how does Pega compete is different from some of the other players,
sure.
who we will not name, but we know who they are?
Yeah, of course. Well, some of those organizations that we will not name started from from the bottom up.
Yeah.
And they basically, and this is not a really a judgment in any way.
No.
Is that basically that's we started from the very top down.
Right.
Which is basically just sort of how we grew up, basically the neighborhoods that we grew up in.
Yeah.
And so we basically are, from the very first days of the Pega systems, we were trying to use technology to solve complex problems.
Okay.
And it was around the back office, and the early days it was all around being able to add rules and smarts into basically wire transfers and exceptions, and handling wire transfers and taking them away from being manual processes to making them entirely straight through processing. That was really the heritage of the company.
Okay.
And all of its patents are around using rules and policies and automation, and being able to embed otherwise tribal knowledge in an organization into an automated fashion.
Okay.
And just this morning, we heard from Cisco and how they talked about 93% of their cases were going through straight through processing.
Yeah.
Which is
it's
pretty awesome.
Yeah,
number.
it was cool.
So that was a great presentation. So our heritage came from solving business problems for the large organizations, for the complex enterprises.
Okay.
And this also ties into your other question. The reason why we're in that business is because that's who we are, and that's how we grew up, and that's what we build.
But I guess the next question that is on from there is that, does that mean that because you've got a significant and very impressive footprint across big organizations.
We do.
But the next, I guess that. So is the next stage kind of taking it down or broadening it out, deepening it out?
It is. But let's talk about a little bit about, before we jump into that, let's talk about a little bit of differentiators.
Okay.
That basically the heritage of coming from one background versus the other background. So so our background coming from the enterprise and automating through the back office policies has always given us the view that the systems should do the work, and they should not be just a place where you park the work for humans to do.
Okay.
Right. We actually, we always wondered why the industry that we were in, the PM industry, early on was not called business process automation.
Right.
We didn't want to manage the processes. We wanted to automate them.
Yeah.
We want to just make the computer do the work, and do it faster, do it more efficiently, do it more correctly. Get it done faster for the customer.
Yeah.
So we've always come from the automation perspective.
Okay.
And when we build out our applications, and as we got more into the CRM space, it really came to us where all these back office processes that we're automating for these large organizations, where they were all being done on behalf of the customer.
Sure.
Right. And the systems at the time were essentially taking records.
Yeah.
Of basically parking the work, and then that was like printing out or sending requests to our back-end systems to do the work.
Okay.
We're like, well, why don't we take this work and put it over there.
Yeah, sure.
And that's really how it started. We basically said, well, why don't we just do end-to-end customer service?
Yeah, so you sort of move from, well, let's get out of just the back office and into the front office as well,
Right.
and just do the whole sort of thing, just knit the whole thing together.
So let's not capture the fact that the customer wants another card. Let's send them another card.
Yeah.
Let's not basically capture the fact that they have a question about this transaction or their dispute of this transaction. Let's actually, put the transaction dispute into play. So that's really how it started.
So here's like so let me see if I've got this right. So this is a bit like it's a bit like running a relay. So you're not just running a single leg. You are the whole relay team.
We pretty much, that's one way to look at it. But we don't hand off. We actually, take the work and just do it in the context of the customer service engagement.
Yeah.
So, right.
I meant so almost that each leg represents a different sort of kind of element, whether it's up front office or back office or different operations,
absolutely.
But it's all connected.
It's all connected.
You can't do it without each other.
Right. It is basically, that is the essence of providing this service to the customer. So we started basically in the customer service space, and then it pretty naturally evolved into the sales automation space. But our acquisition with the Cordiant about 5 years ago really jump-started and got us into both analytics and into marketing at the same time.
So that was kind of one of the things I was going to ask you about, because one of the big things that came out of the presentation kind of yesterday and also the last couple of days is there's been a big emphasis around customer decision hub. So there's all these different sort of spaces, and then there's this customer decision, and then there's and what happens.
I wasn't trying to be subtle, so
no. It's like this
I'm
thing.
glad it came across.
Everybody's on message sort of thing. It's like these are the what's going on. So. And the thing that the phrase that follows customer decision hub and everybody else is talking about is the next best action.
Yes.
So can you tell me about those two things?
Absolutely.
Because that's very much linked
to how we differentiate as well. So basically, we always talked about, as I said, we came from the automation. So there's one way we've always differentiated ourselves from other players in the marketplace, and we automate at the enterprise work level. We're not talking about, coffee shops.
No.
We're talking about the big businesses where they have complex products, complex policies, regulations, international, pressures. We basically do the automation capabilities, and then we've been basically since the acquisition of the Cordiant, we spent a couple of years completely rewriting their technology. From scratch. We rewrote the code, but we kept the algorithms and the genius in the team in Amsterdam. But we rewrote it into our platform. All this decisioning and analytics and machine learning, and then recently we added real-time event streaming and complex event processing, so that you can do correlations on those real-time events, which is really cool, I think. But
it was like,
it is so cool to be able to do it all in one decision point, to be able to look at historical data, which is pretty cool, and then to be able to actually have real-time events coming in that basically, essentially give you current data, and you can decide how you're going to weigh them,
and how that interfaces with the historical data, and what you need to do.
Next. And you can decide, I'm going to basically take 10% of the time I'm going to steer based on just real-time data. 90% I'll go historic, and then compare the results, and then change how much you're trusting the real-time data. And gives you an ability to sort of do testing. I think it's very, very powerful. So we basically said, as we built all of those CRM applications that we talked about before, marketing, marketing, sales, and service, and had always this automation capability. Marketing came in a little bit later. And we've always differentiated with our ability to automate the work, end to end in these applications. As the intelligence capabilities became a core part of the technology, now we said, well, this automation has been helping us a lot in streamlining and adding value to the organizations in these apps. Let's make the intelligence capabilities actually bring us to the next next level in our game.
Well, if you
so not an incremental, but it's really at the next level.
If you're automating, you're almost kind of like assuming that that's a static sort of like thing, and then it's you've optimized there, but actually with the intelligence, you go like, no, it needs to be here rather than, and so it's a
So automation gives you great operational efficiency. Right? Intelligence changes the game. Completely changes the game and gives you essentially ability to try out new stuff, to be able to actually engage, to be able to innovate new ideas. Because so this is basically muscle. This is ideas.
Right. And that's the thing at the heart of the customer decision.
That is the customer decision. That is the heart of the customer decision. So we basically, what happened is, to be perfectly honest with you, we've been using our intelligence capabilities strictly to our marketing application.
Right.
Because we didn't want to go broad. We didn't want to be able to we don't want to get into a bunch of industries that we don't understand, right? So we've been using our intelligence capabilities for marketing, but our customers have started basically taking that product with us, which we basically said, you have your Pega platform, you have your decisioning capabilities, and you have your marketing, right? This is how we said you do it. They're like, okay, that's great, but we're going to basically take the decisioning stuff, put it here, put marketing in here, make sure that marketing is still running the same decisioning, but we're going to have other stuff call into the decisioning capabilities as well in the interaction, because they said we think marketing is beyond a market. We think the marketing is a function of other departments than marketing, as well as marketing.
Right. Yeah. So it's but I guess you want to go beyond. It's not just about sort of selling sort of people's stuff. Right. It's also about adding the service, and it just becomes a whole end-to-end
engagement basically. And they basically talked about looking now. We're basically using this decision capabilities to do risk analysis.
Okay.
Right. So one of the most. So when we talk about next best action. And all of these things are the things that we differentiate. So I think it helps answer the other question as well. So every time I engage with a customer, right, what are the things that I should understand? And you can basically ask questions, and you can define what your questions are. But really, for the most part, very standard set of questions. There's typically the questions around, is this person a credit risk? Okay. We're going to do business, but it's basic credit risk, and there's all sorts of risk calculations and algorithms that we built into the system, so we can determine that, and of course the data that the organization brings in and their existing models from their SaaS and SPSS can be imported to be able to become executables. Right. Which is a big difference.
And with that, if say, for example, somebody in the say a customer service rep or something was on the phone talking to somebody, and they could do a real-time sort of risk assessment or a credit risk assessment, and with it, then would the system then turn around and go, well, therefore here's our options based on kind of what, and so they can have that sort of a bit more of, I guess, a sort of mature conversation.
But the person will never know that we're doing a risk assessment.
Right.
We'll just do the next best action. So, during the next best action, we'll do the risk assessment.
Yeah, but it will incorporate in the thinking.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay.
Absolutely, and then we'll check to see if there are collections risk.
Right.
So, can we actually get our money? Right. If we have we already sold something to them, and is there some other collections issues? So we have a whole set of capabilities built in here. Then we'll check to see if this person is a retention risk to an existing customer.
Yeah.
Maybe this is not the time to sell them something. Maybe this is time to actually give them something.
Yeah.
Right. And then if they're not a retention risk, then is this person that we want to basically get them to be better educated in our product so that they get better benefits? Do we need to turn them into advocates? Do we need to basically cross-sell them or upsell them new products?
And that's all based on the big data and analytics kind of capabilities that's coming from the intelligence kind of module.
Exactly. Right. And then out of this, the system will make a decision.
Right.
They say, do that. And some people don't like this. And they say basically, sometimes they say our CSRs are intelligent, they do this, so we'll give them top 3 suggestions.
Right. Okay.
And then we'll put the propensity numbers next to each one of the suggestions that we think this has a 90% likelihood of succeeding, this has 87%. We'll give them top 3. Some people want to see top 5. But the system will basically just make the recommendations. And you can, in some implementations, they give the discretion to the person on the system to actually engage in a different way.
Yeah.
It will calculate that as well.
I guess people like discretion. They like the idea that they're sort of there's a degree of control, and they can make the decision themselves rather than just being told what to do, I guess.
Absolutely they do, and it often proves them wrong.
Yeah,
the system basically
that's the brilliant thing about being human.
Yeah, that's right. For example, it turns out one of the least valuable variables in determining whether basically a loan is at risk or not, it turns out it's the FICO score.
What is the FICO score?
It's the your financial stability
right,
score
okay,
that you can basically credit companies.
Yeah, credit score.
Credit score.
Yeah, FICO is obviously a US term.
Yeah, sorry.
Never mind. Don't worry.
But it turns out that's one of the least deterministic variables that's in the formula.
Okay.
It turns out it's the loan to value is the highest predictor.
Yeah.
And the system will look at this. Will just basically will not make a guess. It's not making a. It's not making an intellectual decision.
Right.
It just basically says, well,
it's crunching the numbers.
That's what the crunching the numbers. That's what
the
computers
algorithm
do.
says. This is what the data's
That's
telling
what
us.
they do. And in a lot of the times, people will say, okay, we're going to basically, we're going to try to ask these questions and get answers to these questions or the right outcomes, and what are the data that gives us the right outcomes.
Yeah.
And they'll say, okay, here's basically, a million records that each have basically, 500 columns in it.
Yeah.
And they'll say, okay, I want you to evaluate the weights of the variables that play a role in determining the outcome. And they say, well, just select these 10 fields. And we say, well, why are those 10 fields? They're like, well, those are the primary variables that determine the outcome. So just rank them for us. We're like, well, there are 490 other variables. They're like, no, we know that this is the 10. It's never that 10.
No.
It is never that 10. We basically will always tell them, just don't tell the system which fields to rank.
Yeah.
Give the system the data, right? It's a computer. It will compute, right? This is one time we're actually using the name of the technology to actually do what it's basically named after. And it will tell you what the variables are that are actually impacting the outputs.
Okay.
And it will, not only will make those calculations, every time this data grows, it will recalculate.
Right.
And it will recalculate, and we call it adaptive analytics.
Okay.
To be able to not only look at the historical models, like beautiful pictures, not only look at the historical data.
Karen's going to draw it.
Yeah. Not only look at the historical data, but to look at the real-time data and adapt the outcomes.
And the real time becomes
recalculate.
historical, kind of as it kind of goes forward, I guess. So it's always learning and always recalculating.
And recalculate the propensity models on a regular basis.
So then there's all this intelligence sort of stuff, and then you start in the keynote, and then you started talking about there's what we could do with robotics, the ghosts in the machine.
Right. So the robotics is a little bit on the left side of this.
So it's
picture,
not
right?
it's sort of intelligence, but it's also automation, but the intelligent automation or something. But
so the interesting thing about the robotics is very much around. As I said, for years we've been building on the power of automation and actually getting the work done. And we did process automation, policy automation, integration, case lifecycle management, straight through processing, and now we added the robotic desktop automation. Yeah. Which essentially takes desktop applications that were mostly built into 90s or before.
I've got a picture of you in that slide, kind of with a kind of computer screen and all the kind of the things and the post-it notes and things, and I'm just like, that's just a modern day hell. Type of thing. But it's I can imagine that's CSRs try and deal with that stuff in kind of many and sometimes worse stuff than that.
Of course. And it has three major reasons why that experience sucks. One, it takes too long, right, to do it. That's what the average handle time point was. Two, it's very error prone. Yeah. Right. People they forget to do things.
Well, particularly when you're using you did the demo, you did the examples of it. It was a cut and paste sort of thing. Yeah. Or you're trying to remember what that is to that is, and it's
very error prone.
Yeah.
They just basically key things wrong all the time.
Sure.
All the time, and it's very, very expensive to train the people, train the users for it. It eliminates all three.
I would also add two more onto that. One, it sucks for the CSR, and it sucks for the customer as well.
And the experience is a disaster.
And they're kind of like the two most important parts in it, because it's that you've got the tools in between. Because every customer knows when somebody's on the phone, like, I'm just talking between. The system's a bit slow. You're like going, what, really? And that when somebody's got to tell a customer that, they're having a bad day. Yeah. And it's just everything's not going their way.
It's like when you're at the airport and you try and say, is there an aisle seat? And then they type a novel about this big into the screen to see if there's an aisle. Like,
search for aisle.
They're just like constantly like keying in something, and like she must be doing something different.
Yeah, well, exactly. So that's just more almost like taking the automation and the optimization sort of further. I mean, because you gave us an example about how it listens.
Yeah, so that's actually a bit of a crown jewel that people haven't recognized yet.
Okay.
But they will. So the robotic automation is very much around essentially just eliminating those users having to interact with those legacy systems and having this virtual robot thing do the human action. That's cool. But the workforce intelligence product is all about being able to look at the tens of thousands of people that are working on their desktops and trying to decide, what are they doing?
What's taking too long, and who's doing it best or whatever,
or even what are they doing on those computers? What are they opening up? Which applications? So any enterprise, every enterprise here is unique,
and that's not just for customer service reps. It could be across the
entire organization. So every organization that's in here at PegWorld, they're all unique, right? As unique as any human being are, right? They're all unique. They all have their unique architecture of their systems and applications, and vendors and SaaS applications and all this other crap. All these users, we're paying them gazillion dollars every day. Do we know what they're doing? Do you know what that department people are doing? Do you know how long they're doing it for? Let's say they work on 15 systems. What percentage of their time are they spending on those 15 production systems?
Some people might say that they feel that's a slightly big brother, but I guess it might be. But it's a quest for. I think the thing that interests me was that how you were using it the listening to eliminate inefficiencies in kind of processes.
Well, also it's basically someone to say, we should replace that system.
Yeah.
And it turns out that system is being used 5% of the time, and that other system that is basically not as bad, but is being used 45% of the time.
So it also allows you the capability to acquire data to figure out kind of what's being used and what's not being used.
Data, and it basically can crunch the numbers. It can compute the best places that you can basically leverage. Replacement, your transformation. So people are talking about digital transformation. Which one are they going to transform? I mean, that's the part of it's like the transformers, right? Something has to transform from one thing to the next.
Well, I guess in a similar sort of way, if you're going through a transformation and you're trying to migrate people from one system onto another system, it also gives you an idea of how that's kind of going in terms of how much people are going to use the system versus kind of are they sticking to what they know?
Exactly.
And whether your training or your communication plan.
Exactly. Are the old systems still being basically used? So you can use that visibility. But I mean, look, everybody goes to office and their mobile phones, they immediately connect to the wireless network. Okay. So all their Facebook searches and all their Twitter searches and everything that they go through is going through the corporate network. Whatever they do on Google, it's basically all on there. The data is there. All the cookies are there. So the Big Brother part, it is a.
I only can brought that up just so you can dispel it.
It is. I mean, it is basically collecting the data. Its intention is to be able to eliminate that horrible experience that the staff is having, and make sure that basically the digital transformation products are done on the areas of the organization that are actually worthwhile to be able to take it over.
Just for the benefit of this recording, Kerem did do a live demo at one of the keynotes where he was talking about an issue which is the bane of most CSRs kind of lives, where there's a change of address and so you have to cut and paste across lots of different systems. But in a demo where they changed one, did almost the system records a series of actions when it's about cutting and pasting and changing address, and then you press execute and then it does it for you, which I thought was very cool. And the broader applications of that is I think are vast. But before we kind of get shut down, so tell me very very quickly, bring this to life and give me an idea of maybe an example of firms that are using this and the sort of benefits they're achieving in terms of time save, cost save, SAT scores going up, NPS scores going up, all that stuff, because that's almost the good stuff. That's the outcomes that we're all looking to achieve.
Yeah, I mean, one of the the organizations range from the American Expresses, for example. We heard from the Cisco this morning that they're basically completely transforming how they engage with their customers. Sprint is one of the organizations that basically went from losing customers despite all their attempts. So they add customers all the time because there's a lot of money spent in the front end of actually onboarding customers into their.
They just got a bigger tap, kind of like than a smaller plug.
Right. So now they're basically their subscriber numbers are actually increasing
because they're able to keep their customers.
They're keeping a much bigger percentage of the customers. So they've significantly reduced their churn.
Okay.
And their churn is now less than the acquisition of their, which is a complete change in the business outcomes.
Super. Anything else you want to add before I kind of hauled off, kind of like stage by Elena?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. So next time we meet, we're going to talk about how basically having these 3 different systems that do marketing, sales, and service. And we're going to say, well, how does that make sense? We're going to say, why can't a salesperson do the address change for the customer?
Of course.
Right? Why can't the salesperson actually run the marketing campaigns for their local list? Why can't the customer service rep enter a lead for a new opportunity into the sales organization?
Actually, and why have you got 3 different organizations?
Yeah, these lines are going to go away.
Yeah, and then you're going to have sales, service, and marketing all in the one pool.
So we'll have that discussion next time.
Karen, thank you.
Pleasure meeting you.